And today we're going to be taking a look and see what's inside this box. Because what I have inside this box is going to literally blow your mind away. This is one of the few things in the knife world. That's right, I said knife world. I didn't say wallet, did I? You guys thought it was going to be another wallet video. That's not the case. So we have here inside this box one of the most unique knives that I have ever come across as a knife collector. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out right now. You guys can take a look at it. Put the box. This is actually the box. It's got a nice little gold emblem on it. And the knife is from a gentleman named Hara. Can't get the camera to focus there, but yeah, Hara of Hara Custom Knives. There you go. It's a better shot of that. So let's take this out. This is the case that the knife comes in. Really very, very nice case. As you guys can tell, I'm moving very slowly and pulling the knife out because I want to, you guys will be shocked when I pull it out and you're going to take a good look at it. So this is the Certificate of Authenticity by Hara. There's his signature right down there. Hara. I said Drew, didn't I? I meant Hara. That's the gentleman's name. And Hara hails from Japan. Now, as you guys remember last week, I did a video on a French knife maker named Jean-Pierre Martin. I'm kind of branching out in my knife collecting. I've decided to maybe get one knife from every region of the world. This time we're off to Japan. So this is Drew Hara's calling card. There's all his information right there. Okay, how about enough of that? We're going to take the box and set it aside. So I'm going to take the box, put it away. Now we're going to get to the pièce de résistance, which is the knife itself. Are you guys ready? Here we go. I'm just going to give you guys a good look at it. There you go. Take a look at that guy. That is insane. We're going to talk about the knife and the materials here in a second, but I just wanted to give you guys a good look at the knife itself. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about the knife. He does give you a really very nice case that comes with the knife as well. So let's talk about this knife. So as I said before, this knife is made by a knife maker named Hara. He hails from Japan. His father is a real legendary knife maker who has been making knives for many, 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 many years. I believe he is now retired and has now passed the mantle off to his son, who is doing a really fantastic job. So let me tell you all about this knife. So the name of the knife is called the Noah MK2. This is a one-of-a-kind handmade piece, meaning you will never see another one like this ever again. This is a 15-layer forged VG10 Damascus with abalone inlay. We're going to talk about that in a second. It's got a copper handle and shinkai with, again, abalone inlay. 420 stainless, and the back bar on the knife is titanium. And yeah, this is a one-of-one knife. Pivot and screws are DLC coated. So shinkai, it basically means characteristic coloring reminiscent of the abyssal. So that's kind of cool. So what makes this knife so different than the other knives that I brought out on my channel is that this is probably one of the very first knives that I can say is not just a knife, but it's literally an art piece. You can tell by the way that it is designed. But, let's take a look at the knife as a knife. Let's take a look at it as a knife as a whole. The action on the knife is absolutely incredible. Really nice, smooth action on it. Really sweet. See the pivot on there? Like you said, they are DLC coded. He's got sort of a yin and yang pivot, which makes his pivot a lot more unique than other pivots that you may have seen. A lot of people probably prefer the pivotless knife, but he kind of makes having a pivot on your knife much more interesting with that yin yang circle thing on it. The black screws on the knife fit this knife perfectly. The handle is made of copper. And again, the back bar is stainless steel along with the titanium pocket clip. You can take a look at the back of the knife there. It says Do Hara, 1 of 1. Right? Now, the knife has abalone inlays. Now, for many of you who don't know what abalone is actually snail shell. So this is the first knife I've ever owned that actually has organic material on it. The abalone looks almost like stained glass, and it's on both sides of the knife. It looks absolutely spectacular. Steel is VG10, and again, I forgot to bring out paper. It's VG10 Damascus. I forgot to bring out paper to do paper cut, but that's okay. I mean, this is an art piece, right? So just want to keep that in mind. VG10 Damascus is what we've got here. Really very nice. What I like about this blade is you've got this really beautiful sort of Damascus pattern followed by this sort of apocalyptic look up towards the top near where the inlay is. So it looks almost like it's apocalyptic or something. I've never seen anything done that way, but I like it. It's almost like he had it stuck into the ground and he found it in some sand, pulled it out, and boom, I got a knife. That's basically what it looks like. Like, maybe an artwork was found maybe after the dropping of a nuclear bomb or something. It's just really very, very pretty. This is very, very well constructed. Everything on this knife, the fit, the finish, is just spectacular. The other thing I want to say about this knife, it's as heavy as a brick. It's pretty heavy, this knife, but that doesn't bother me either. That's why you buy knives, for the experience of having it. It gives you a different feel, a different look, a different everything. You want each of the knives that you have in your collection to be different than the one that's next to it, which is basically the point of collecting. Something is different about it, and that's why you have it in your collection. It's a very, very addictive flipper. The detent on this knife is it's sort of soft, but it's not too soft. I mean, in a sense that I could shake this with all my might, and I can't have the knife swing out with inertia like I do usually with some soft detented knives that I've owned before. This is not that knife. I don't know how he did that either. The knife runs on ball bearings, so you're going to get the real nice smooth action. His flipper tab is contoured to your finger. That's another interesting thing that he's done. Usually flippers are like at a 90-degree angle and flat on most knives. Even on custom knives I've seen it that way. He actually makes it so this one kind of conforms to the soft part of your finger, on the soft part of your finger there, which I thought was kind of interesting, and it makes it really comfortable to flip. The blade shape on it, I don't know what to think. Like I said, this is an art knife to me. It's got a lot of angles, not a lot of rounding on it, so it's sort of, I don't know, a modified something, but it's definitely a knife shape that is completely original to Do Hara knives. At least I'm going to say that. So if you guys want to get a good look at the size of this knife, we're going to do some size comparisons just because I do not have any specs on this yet. Like I said, this is a one-of-a-kind handmade piece, and I don't have any specs for the knife at all. So let's just pull out some knives that many of us may be familiar with so you guys can get a good idea of the size. I'm going to pull it up against the ZT 0562. That's no stranger to anyone that owns knives. This is probably the knife of the entire world, the 0562. Really interesting piece. As you guys can see, they're basically the same size. So that would give you an idea that this knife is right around a 3.5-inch blade. But I'm going to say that, yeah, it's about 3.5-inch blade. The handles are roughly the same exact size. So there you go right there. I'm going to go ahead and put it up against another one. How about the Benchmade Anthem? That's always a favorite. 3.5 right there. Get the idea of the size. Sabenza 21. How about the Boost Blades Smoke, which is a pretty large knife. Again, this knife even towers that one, and that's sort of a big knife. Here's an old classic, the Les George 0900. That's the name of that one. So it was a small knife, right? And finally, up against the carbon fiber, the new carbon fiber. I forgot the name of this knife all of a sudden. But that's a brand new knife by Benchmade. They released it in smaller version. God, the name's going to come to me in a second. So there you have it, the size comparison on this knife. So Hara, yeah, he hails from Japan. You're not going to see any knives that look anything at all like this. This is just really, this is where you're starting to cross the line. I mean, I have a lot of South African knives that I look at, but for whatever reason, I still look at those South African knives as tools to some extent. Hara has, as you can see from looking at this knife, he has literally put the culture, his culture, the Japanese culture, the entire Japanese culture into one knife. And you can tell, I mean, you're not going to see abalone snail shell inlays on, every other knife that you see. It's just a totally unique thing to Japan. Again, his pivot there, sort of that yin yang feature on it. I believe he does most of his pivots this way. He's trying to let you know that he's from Japan, that he's proud of the country that he's from, and that they do make amazing and great things. And in the knife world, that is no exception. The design on this, totally unique. I mean, looks like this is a knife that could be sitting in the Louvre somewhere. I mean, it is just absolutely mind-boggling, with a lot of pop, color, culture, everything all over this piece. So this is where knife making evolves, but yet he still stays true to the knife world, right? You've got the action, you've got the fit, the finish, the quality. It's all there. He gives it to you, but he presents it to you in a way that is completely culture driven. And I love that. I do love that because I don't really get that too often with many knives. It's almost like a lot of knife makers may be trying to do something to appeal to the average, I don't know, knife layman, but Hara just basically takes a knife and says, I'm going to give you my interpretation of this tool. And he does an absolutely spectacular job. The ergonomics on this knife are second to none. I mean, one thing I love is that the knife, again, it conforms to my hand. My entire hand fits and forms around it. He's got grooves on the knife to where your fingers are supposed to go, as opposed to, some knife makers will just make theirs completely flat. He's actually made it so that you know exactly the position that your fingers are going to fall when they go on your knife, and it's going to fit like a glove. His jimping is just aggressive enough to be useful, which I love. He has chosen an incredibly sharp steel, this VG10 Damascus. I already cut my finger on it. It is really sharp. One thing too is the contrast again on this knife. You see, we've got VG10 Damascus pattern on the knife, and then up on the top we've got this apocalyptic look on both sides of the blade, which I thought was quite interesting. But then take a look at the rest of the knife. Let's close the blade. All right, take a look at the rest of the knife. Everything is high polished. Take a look at that back bar. It's high polished. Very well polished. The pivot in certain access points is high, very, very well polished. He's trying to give you like a lot of contrast on the knife, so you can see there's different textures, there's different feels. And then we go back to this apocalyptic look on the flipper, but then your eye catches that back bar and it's real shiny. So there's like a lot of high polish, a lot of apocalyptic, a lot of rough looks with this knife, and the combination of all of that makes the knife really that much more compelling as an art piece than as a knife. Again, there's his signature, not signature, but the knife actually says "Do Hara" on it with the words "one of one" on there. The abalone inlays on this knife on both the blade and the handles really sparkle. It gives it that sort of effervescent look, which I like because you don't see that too often in knives. But if you had this knife up against other custom knives, it would definitely stand out, and I believe that's probably the point that the man is trying to make. It doesn't look busy at all. I think that his textures, his colors, his entire interpretation of this knife as an art piece, the way he's constructed it, it's just absolutely beautiful. Is this going to be a user? Probably not. It's just too pretty, but I can enjoy a knife like that. You know, have it in my pocket, pull it out, flip it, put it back in. I have no problem enjoying a knife that way. Maybe a lot of other people would want more out of a knife. I'm perfectly fine with that. His centering is dead. Take a look at that. I mean, he has literally done a hell of a job. I love the sound that it makes when it flips open. It's just an amazing, amazing piece. So this was just a quick overview of this knife by this very now well-known knife maker in Japan. He's about 40 years old. He's a family man. He's got 2 kids, beautiful wife. He's just a regular guy who makes knives for a living. But I will guarantee you one thing I would have to ask of you guys, check out his Instagram page, because the other knives, each knife that he makes literally is completely different than the knife before. Not only in the way, not only just in I don't know how to say this, but in shape, but I mean, overall look. A lot of custom knife makers will take the same model, right? And then they'll just pile on different aesthetics onto it. That's not the case with Do. I keep saying Drew. That's not the case with Do Hara. Do Hara literally makes a knife from scratch. The handle will be completely different. The blade shape's going to be completely different. The inlays will be completely different, all done by hand. So each time he makes a knife, he makes a knife pretty much with a blank slate. I don't believe he has like a line of models. Like, for example, Andre Thorburn has what's called the L51 compact flipper. I don't think Do Hara is that type of a knife maker. I really believe he literally starts each knife from scratch, from the beginning, like a blank slate. Like, he doesn't know what the handle is going to look like. He doesn't know what the blade shape's going to look like. He has no idea what inlays he's going to put on it. I mean, he's just a true, total artist that wants to pride himself on letting his imagination create the knife as he goes. And that's what makes this guy so different from other knife makers that I've come across. Not that there's anything wrong with the other knife makers that I've come across, because I would jump to buy any one of their knives in a minute. But this guy is just doing the same thing at a completely different I don't know, completely different way of approaching a knife. I mean, it's almost as if though someone took a blank piece of paper and put it in front of him and said, "Here, make a knife." And that blank piece of paper is basically what he starts out with, and then at the end, hours later, you come up with a totally unique design. If you don't believe me, check out his Instagram page, Do Hara Knives, and you'll see how just about every knife he makes looks completely different than the one that was posted before it. I mean, the handle's different, blade is different, inlays are different. Sometimes the entire inlay is one inlay. I don't know what the guy's got going on in his head, but he's constantly creating, he's constantly making something come to life from scratch, and that's one of the reasons why I love this guy's work so much, because every time you see one of his knives, it's like bam, it's like, oh my god, I've never seen anything like it. And this piece is definitely screams that. And yet at the same time, the fit, the finish, the quality, all the things that you want in a knife, you can tell by the way this knife is constructed, at least the way I can tell, because it's in my hand, is that that's second nature to him. You don't even have to consider that a plus anymore. That's just automatic. The fit and the finish is going to be there no matter what. And in the end, he's just going to put it out in front of you and say, do you like this? It's just absolutely spectacular work. I mean, there are some reminiscence of, the American influence in here. Obviously, he didn't make the back bar quite so exotic as the rest of the knife, which I think was the point, right? I mean, it's just a back bar, but, again, it's titanium. I mean, if you just looked at the knife from this angle, you probably wouldn't even guess the culture or the person that made it. It just looks like the back of a knife, right? But then when you turn it over, it's like, okay, now I can see that this is a piece that's got some serious history, some serious culture behind it, and that's what makes knife making and knife collecting so interesting, is that you get a chance to stretch your imagination out a little bit. And Do Hara definitely makes you do that when you buy one of his knives. The color, I mean, I like that black, like the black streaks. I mean, it almost looks like a Picasso on that thing, I don't know where he came up with that design, but it's got all these sort of streaks and everything. Again, the handle is copper. The handle scales are copper, and I don't know how he got it to be that color. I just don't know. I'm going to have to ask him how he came up with that color, but the color combination is beautiful. And the abalone inlays break up the monotony of the black and the gray so beautifully. Yeah, it's just a fantastic piece overall. So that is it for this video. This is Omar, your Knife of the Party guy, hoping that someday you'll find something like this in your collection and you'll get overall excited over it. In the meantime, I will catch you guys in my next video. That one is going to be a wallet video, by the way. But yeah, I just wanted to give you guys a good look at this new piece that I got, that I'm just so, I don't know, I'm totally blown away by it. I'm still blown away by it. I can't get over the way it looks. It's almost like, with these abalone inlays, it's almost like your hand is walking into a church or something. It's, maybe you're like, we're getting ready to go see Jesus in the stained glass here. I don't know. It's just a weird feeling, but it's really beautiful. Just a beautiful overall piece. So there you have it. The Do Hara, once again, I got to pull out the certificate of authenticity because I forgot the name of the knife. The Do Hara Noah MK2. Is this an actual model knife? I don't know. It might be. Like I said, this is my one and only Do Hara piece, but it's definitely a conversation piece. So. Oh yeah, in case I forgot to mention, yeah, the abalone inlays are actually snail shells. So this is actually, again, my very first knife with organic materials on it. So that's another big deal to me. So you may want to give that a thought. And I'm probably going to talk about that again at a later date. organic materials versus inorganic materials, because there's a whole controversy behind that. Give you guys one last look at this before I close out the video. Keep saying when I close out, but then I don't. So there you have it. The MK2 Noah by Hara. Omar, you're a knife of the party guy. Signing off, hoping you'll find a knife like this in your collection someday. Thank you so much for watching, and you guys have a fantastic evening.